Hey guys, this is Alex Heberling, and today I'm going to show you how I color an evil ink strip. First off, here is the file that I get from Brad every week, or twice a week, whatever. So the first thing I'm going to do is I combine all of Brad's art and layers and line art and stuff into a folder called Brad Layers, and then I uncheck the signature and copyright line, and then make a copy of the whole thing that's just called line art. You can see that's sort of a merged version of the layers that I get from Brad. And then I duplicate that layer again because I'm going to use it for flats, and I'll get back to that in a minute. Go over to my channels here, and this step is what takes out all the white from the image. I fill it in with black, copy that layer again, and name it Trap. This step, as well as duplicating it, is for the CMYK conversion that I do at the very end of this process. And so for this Trap layer, I select all the pixels on the thing, and I contract it, and then I invert the selection and delete it. So it's just like kind of a thinner version that sits underneath the line art. And now I'm going to convert this to RGB instead of grayscale. And then I fill this Trap layer with this dark blue color. And now I continue on to the flats. Now for this part I need only black and white pixels. So I go over to threshold, and you can see if I zoom in here, it changes everything from alias to just black and white. So if I unclick the preview here, yes I know, you can see it's sort of blended out. That's called anti-aliasing. And so I usually drag the slider over just a little bit, just to cover up some very subtle gaps in the line art and stuff like that. And I go over to my pixel brush tool, the pencil tool rather, in Photoshop. And the first thing I do is erase the word balloons, or the dialogue rather, not the word balloons. And you're like, Alex, why don't you just remove the dialogue from the thing before you merge the layers? And that would take kind of long to explain, but it has to do with the word balloons themselves and the layers that are on. And now that I've got all the dialogue out, I start prepping the characters for flat. Now I use a flatting plugin called Bpelt, B-P-E-L-T, and what it does, it's in two parts. First is the multi-fill step. These are the settings I use for it, and what it does is it fills in the white with random colors. Now you can see here that things like Commander Heroic's eye are not flatted out, and sometimes there's gaps, like right here. The glasses in the forehead are on the same thing, and somewhere here there's a series of gaps that are letting this lime green color flood into artists and stuff like that. So that is why I have to prep the line work for this step. And I start by just taking black and white and going in and joining up little areas and filling in gaps and that kind of thing. This is kind of the tedious part, so I might sort of fast forward through this when I edit it together. Boop. Give me a little bit of sideburn. Nope, wrong color. And I'll often just hit Control F to quickly redo the filter and check my work. Like up here, I can add a little gap there so that I have less work to do later on when I'm filling in the actual colors. There's a little bit of garbage there. And I've done this so often that I do it pretty quickly. Most characters have a sort of set pattern. I have a sort of set pattern with how I do their flats and stuff like that. Like, you know, the hairline here, I'm used to doing that, so I just kind of go shoop, boop. And okay, join those up. Oops, gap there. Join those up. And check my work. Oh, and I want to have like a discrete area where Argus's chin is, so I'm going to kind of draw that in here. Oops, on the flats layer, like so. But I do want to join up his little corner on the other side. Okay, and I don't need those to be separate. Boop, 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 boop. Same thing here. There's a gap there. there, and there, and there. Okay, those are different colors even though they look very, very close on my screen, so that's fine. I think that panel is good. So we'll hit undo and get back to the black and white. There we go. Sometimes this step involves me sort of drawing a little bit to add to things like, you know, the base of hair and stuff like that. But 99% of the time, I don't really have to do much in that respect. Nope. Like this line should probably continue behind Arx's hand. So I'll add that in. And generally just use common sense and good judgment. And as far as working with Brad on this thing and hand thing, it's pretty hands-off. Sometimes I make mistakes, but that doesn't happen quite as often anymore. Okay, I'm gonna look over everything one more time, just to make sure I'm happy. I didn't miss anything. Oh, that's not good. There we go. Do that. And I think that's good. Oops. Now the other half of this plugin, the flatten, then takes out the black and extends all of the colors around it inside it. So like when I turn my line art layer back on, it's all perfect and lovely. But before I do that, I want to go through and clean up my flats a little bit. Nope, nope. Multi-fill. So what I mean by that is I go through and make things that are supposed to be the same color or the same object into the same color or object. Like I'll make the floor all this random green color. At this point it doesn't really matter what the colors are, just as long as they're different from one another. So like here and here. For all the shelf parts of this piece of furniture, I'm just going to do, oops, I kind of, you can see here, I did miss a gap when I was doing prepping the black and white for the flats. So for this, I will just use my selection marquee to fix that. And same here, I think these two areas just got joined just because of proximity. There are rules you can set in the BPelt plugin to adjust that and keep that from happening if as needed. I'll make Argus's eyes the same color, and I'll make this other like ear flap, chin flap the same color as well. Same color for the belt, same color for both. Oops, sometimes that happens. I miss. And then I'll make sure the background is all a unified color. I am going to make Argus's body a different color, and I'm just going to pick a random one from my swatches file, just so I can see it better against the background. Make sure both eyes on each character are kind of the same colors, the same coordinating colors or whatever. And do that. I think the gloves can both be joined up. I want to keep the fist in the foreground as a separate element though. Legs, boots. Left to right. Both these hands and both these wings back here are the same. In the background. Oops. This character's eyes and glasses are just going to be kind of like cluttered up because, you know, she's kind of wearing big, thick glasses, so I don't have to worry about like giving her the whites of the eyes or anything like that. That's something I usually do with characters with glasses, like, you know, if this were face on, I would do that, but this is sort of a more cartoony background character, and it's not that big a deal. And it looks like I missed another gap here, so I'm just going to pick a random color and use my lasso tool to fix that. And make sure her face is all the same. I think this is supposed to be part of the same jacket, so we'll do that too. And I think that's all I need to do for the flats on here. So I can use my Flatten Pro, and I select that neon green, and I delete it. So we have just the figures and the backgrounds. I'm going to lock the transparency on here, and I'll make my line art and trap layers revisible. I'm going to reset my tomato timer. Anyway, I copy the flats layer and then I can name it colors. And now I go through and add the true colors for everything, usually starting with whites, since that's the default. The whites of the eyes, and so on and so forth. Then I have a few stock colors that I use just from my swatches file here. This is kind of the mouth, tongue, open mouth color. On Argus, it's just sort of same stony brown, stony gray that he always has. And this is usually my glasses. Oops, those two are not joined up when I finished. And this is sort of my default glasses color. I think I want to give her gold frames. Maybe like that. We'll see how that looks here in a minute. And now for the rest of the colors here, I'm going to open up a swatches file. Where was it? I just had it open. No, I guess I'll go to my phone. This is a swatches file I made of all the colors for each character. Oh, nope, dock it over here. Yep. They kind of go in order of when they appeared after I started coloring them, or after I started coloring Heberling. So there's plenty of characters that I have not yet colored or collected swatches for. Oh, I think I had... Wait, no. I'm a goofball. nope, wrong. There we go. I should probably double check something real quick. I sometimes have trouble remembering colors. I'm gonna look at a strip real quick. Because I can't remember if Commander Heroic's belt is blue or yellow, so I'm just going to check real quick. I think it's blue, but it never hurts to make sure. Come on. It is yellow. See, it's a good thing I checked. So I'm going to go over to the flats layer and select those bits. Gosh, I hope I haven't got that wrong in recent strips. So that's all ship shape. And for the other colors on this page, I'm going to go to the most recent strip and grab those samples for the background and for the boys and so forth. So this is what a completely shaded and colored Heberling page looks like. Oop, nope, nope. Stop that. And then I think I need to go one more back. Maybe one more back beyond that. We'll keep them both open. Oh, wrong one. I was going to say we'll keep them both open just in case. There we go. See if this has all of Or his pants color. Nope. Did not already establish that. So I think... yeah, it's fine. And now we'll do this character over here. And sometimes I need to look up things, so I'm just kind of looking at some inspiration. Let's try... not really feeling any of these, but I kind of like the color palette on this one, so I'll probably kind of crib that for inspiration. We'll do maybe a purple coat. And I think I'll adjust the saturation of her glasses too. Let's make it a little more muted. And those are our base colors all done. Before I go on to shading, I'm going to add in some details. Or actually, no, before I go into shading, I'm going to get my layers all preparized. And I group all these layers together. And now that all my base colors are down, I go through, and I don't really need all of these separate things to be discrete and selectable. So I go through again with my fill bucket, and I just kind of fill things in. This is mostly applicable to things like clothes and costumes. Like I think here I don't need the individual vest and shirt to be separately selectable for reasons that I will, demonstrate later when I get to that point. I'm also going to make this her face and eyes join up. Oh, and there was something that I noticed on Oliver's face here before. I missed a little slice. but I can't think of anything else that I need to do. So at this point, I save, close Photoshop, and we're going to go over to Manga Studio. This is Clip Studio Paint, also known as Manga Studio 5. For, I'm assuming, reasons of like licensing or something. The physical version that Smith Microsoftware sells is Manga Studio 5, but the download version is Clip Studio Paint. And I don't really understand it, but it's really no skin off my nose. Okay, so we're here in Manga Studio. Manga Studio has a few functions that help out my coloring process immensely. And the number one thing is reference layers. So I have my flat layer selected, and I'm going to select that as set it as a reference layer. Now what you can do with things like Magic Wand and Fill Bucket and stuff like that is you can set you can set it to refer to other layers even if you're not on that layer. So if I go up to shading, this is my flats reference Magic Wand. If I go up to my shading layer, I can select his face, or the desk, or the background, or this, or that, or that, or that, or that, or that. And it refers to this flats layer when it does that, and it's awesome. It was like made for my process almost. I'm so glad it exists. So what I'm going to do first before I get started with the shading is I'm going to add a couple textures. For Argus, I'm just going to select all of the bits of him, and I have a separate layer set to multiply, and I have this special dirt brush that I made. I'm going to make it a little smaller. This is a brush that I use in my own comic all the time to add, you know, dust and dirt and stuff to characters' clothes and backgrounds and stuff like that. And it helps, it's nice here to give Argus a stony texture. I'm going to do that for the next panel. And I don't need a whole lot, just a little bit to give it some texture. Got all of them. And it doesn't take a whole lot of pressure. This is a brush that I kind of modified from a pre-existing brush in Manga Studio. I just kind of copied it and made adjustments to the spray and stuff like that. I'm not very good at making custom Manga Studio brushes, so most of the brushes here are ones that I've bought from other artists. But the dirt brush is one that I happen to have made myself. Alright, I'm going to lock that layer so I can't do anything to it that I don't want to do. And that is it for the flats for this comic. I will be back in part 2 where I go over the shading. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.